Well, as she said, I'm Gerry Stroman, and let me just tell you a little bit about me. I've been at IU Kokomo for almost 30 years, so I have some history at IU. I've always been in education, and the time that I've been at IU Kokomo, I really have been in advising. I hired in as a director of university division, and I know you had a university division here because way back in the day, Ernie Smith was here, and when we had meetings, from all the campuses, we would meet with him. So I go way back to when we had university division, and a lot of campuses have gotten rid of that, but that's when I started, when we had university division. So during my tenure at IU Kokomo, one of the things that we talked about was advising, and our university division was very different than what you had. In your university division, you had all the students, as I understand it, right, came in through university. All the new students came in through UDiv. Okay, on our campus, when we started, UDiv, University Division, was the exploratory students. So it was this, and it was our largest area. So all the way it was set up, we had a University Division was for exploratory students, and all the other schools, education, business, everybody else did their own thing with advising. So all the other majors, they had either a professional advisor and then faculty advised. That's how we started out. And as we began to do that, one of the things that the chancellor stated to me was that we need to at least get all the advisors, all the people that are working together and come together and meet. So we started an advising council. People did not report to me, but we started the council where everybody came and we talked and we met and we talked about what they were doing in advising. We'd have people from admissions there, we have people from the registrars there, we have different people there to talk about what changes or what things that were going to affect our students with the advising process. So bam, that's what we did. So as we started to do this, what we began to look at numbers, and we knew that our retention numbers were not that great. Our retention numbers were not that great. Our enrollment numbers were okay. Every year we may see maybe 20 students, and we'd always set a goal, and the goal wasn't very high. It was always, okay, we need to get this many students over budget. From last year, in order to meet budget, we need to bring this many students in. I mean, that's just the way, that was our mentality. That's the way we operated. And then the chancellor at that time resigned. We had another chancellor to come in. We had an interim chancellor to come in. And during that interim chancellor's reign for 2 years is when we made the changes that we've made in advising. And that was back in 2009 is when we made those changes in advising. At the time we made the changes, let me say that we had an interim chancellor, and we had an interim chancellor of vice chancellor for academic affairs. So both of those people were going out the door. They knew eventually within 2 years. They knew it was a risk. On our campus, advising was very territorial. I mean, people did not want to make changes in advising. They fought it tooth and nail, let me tell you. It was an uphill battle. It was a very tough battle. But the chancellor at that time felt like we needed to do something. So we had a NACADA consultant to come in, and I understand you have done the same. You've had a NACADA consultant to come in. That consultant came in and she talked to the faculty, she talked to the students, she talked to staff, she talked to the advisors, she talked to every constituency you could think that had something to do with advising. They had a conversation with those people on that campus. And then we did the NESE study. Then we had our results from the NESE study. And those results were not very good from students. They talked about how bad advising was, this, that, and the other. So we knew we had to do something, even though people did not want to change. Retention rates weren't good. Enrollment rates were like right there. So we knew we had to do something, even though people resisted it. So with an interim chancellor and an interim vice chancellor for academic affairs, they decided, once the NACADA consultant came in, once we got that report, once we had the NESE data, that we were going to make some changes. And bam, that we announced that we were going to make some changes. And I can tell you, all whatever broke loose. People fought it tooth and nails. The deans didn't want it. The chairs didn't want it. The advisors didn't want it. It was like, oh no, we are not going down this road. So Cathy can tell you many meetings. I'm not saying that all the advisors. There were some advisors who thought it was okay, and Cathy was one of those people. I mean, she was okay with it. But most of the advisors had been there. People were doing their own things, and they just didn't want to make that change, because we had advisors were reporting to different people. They were reporting to the chairs. They were reporting to the deans of the different schools, and they didn't want to make this change. And the deans didn't want to lose that. But eventually, with the study, the chancellor made the decision. This is the way it's going to be. This is what's going to happen. And we took the results that we got from the NACADA consultant, and that's what we did. And then, Cathy, the next slide, please. Okay, these were the recommendations from the NACADA consultant. First, they said we had to create a position in the vice chancellor's office that had the responsibility for campus-wide leadership of advising. So what they said is you've got to create a position that is over advising campus-wide. You can't have a person over here, over here, over here. You can't have 10 different people doing advising and getting people in. They said you can't do that. It's just not working. Then once you create that position, it had to be a position of authority. It had to be a position that people respected, and it had to be a position that people knew that the campus had invested in, and that person had to have some power to do some things. So that's what they created, which is a position that I held, which was Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and we created the Office of Student Success and Advising. So I was in that position. So let me tell you, as a person that had been on that campus for many years, it was the toughest year that I think I've ever been, that I've had gone through on that campus. It was rough sailing. There were advisors who left because of that, because of the way that things change, and we had clear expectations, and that was the other thing. They said you have to identify what academic advising is. You've got to give some clear expectations. You've got to do a lot of different things. You've got to create an assessment plan. We created all that. You've got to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the staffing. What are your needs for advising? How are you going to break it up? You've got to decide where each advisor is going, what they're going to do. I mean, so you got to think about all that. You got to think about pay. You got to think about, there were a lot of different things that you had to think about. There were tons of things so this study was actually done in 2008. We actually made the change in March of 2009. Now that was, when the study was done, we made the announcement about the change probably about maybe 6 months before the change. So it gave us 6 months to kind of work on what we were going to do. So that was the process that we did. So we had to do all that. We had to create an advising portal. Some of the things we didn't do immediately. Some of the things we did after we had been there for a while. And then we had to provide, and they said you have to clearly, the campus has to get behind advising. You've got to put money in it. You've got to provide resources. You've got to do programming for it. And you've got to make sure you've got a recognition and reward structure for the advisors and for the people that you're doing. You've got to clearly do that based on the report that we've got to do. And then we have to review what faculty and professional advisors were doing. What is it that you want the professional advisors to do, and what is it that you want the faculty to do? So that was our task at hand. So once the NACADA consultants left, then we were left to decide all of that. So once that happened, what we did was we created the Office of Student Success and Advising. It appointed me as Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and I was over that office. And then we had to decide with all the advisors there, what would we do? How would we divide them up? So we looked at what we thought would be the right structure. We had many talks with deans, and when people don't want to do things, sometimes those talks you have to really pull. So it took a lot of talking. The Vice Chancellor, the Assistant Vice Chancellor the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, who was an interim at the time, and we met with all the deans, we met with all the department chairs. We met with the advisors, we met with other constituencies on campus, and we tried to figure out what would be the best structure. And then once you figure out the best structure, how are we going to house these people? So we came up with 4 advising centers. And I think it was not on this, I'm not sure where it is, but we came up with 4 advising centers. We decided that nursing and allied health would go together. So we created that as an advising center. We decided education and general studies would go together. So that was one of the advising centers. And then we decided that at the time it was College of Arts and Sciences and Exploratory would go together. And then we had business and SPIA at the time. Those were our 4 centers because we tried to figure out, and then we looked at the students that were in each one of those. How many students were within each one of those majors? And then we figured out from that, we figured out, okay, this is how we divided up and how many advisors we needed in each one. And we went by NACADA standards. NACADA standards, there were 250, they suggested 250 students per advisor if you were doing strictly advising, where we were doing more than strictly advising, but we still went by that. So that's what we did. So we went by the 250 students per advisor, and then so that's how we divided up. Once we decided that, we had to determine where we're going to put everybody, because everybody was here. Everybody was in business advisor was in the business department, education advisor was in the education department. College of Arts and Sciences was in College of Arts and Sciences department. So we had to figure out space. So that meant people had to change office spaces. And that was really a task too, because oh my Lord, give up an office space, if you had a window, if you didn't have a window, if you've been there long, so that was a task. So we had to decide that. So we finally got all of that figured out. And from what we've done from 2009, we moved forward from that whole process. So we finally people were resistant, but I tell you, it took about a year and people came over. They began to see a lot of changes, so yes.
These advisor centers, they all follow the same procedure, but just different set of students?
Right, everybody had the same set of procedures. We had a list of expectations. We met, we talked about things that we talked about what everybody was doing and what each advisor was doing in their specific areas. And then we came up with a set of common things that everybody could live with that we were doing. So it was like we may have taken some advice from one center, something that was really good. We thought this advisor was doing something good from another center, and we came up with a list of common things that every advisor would do. Like we all send letters out to welcome students once we get that letter from admissions, we send out welcome letters. Once they do that, the orientation process, once students come to orientation after they leave, we sent letters out after that. We all advise students. New students, we decided would take an hour for an appointment. Continuing students, it just really depended. We had maybe 30 minutes for new students. So it was all kind of those things we had to work through. But yes, everybody did the same thing. We met twice a month for advisors just meeting. We met twice a month for that. And then every month we had a staff development. And that was 3 hours. On a Friday we set aside. I know that seems like a lot when you take out of your schedule, but if you are working and you're trying to come up with a common good and everybody's working, you've got to take time to think about and talk about the issues. So we felt that was really important, and everybody felt that important. And we started that in 2009, and we have not stopped that at all yet. I mean, so that was something that people valued, and that we continue to do that today as we begin this whole process as we go through that. Yes.
When you have these meetings, how was your turnout for the advisors in attendance?
We always have 100%. I mean, unless an advisor was on vacation, then we had 100%. There was actually really let me say this. At this point, now prior to that, we had advisors councils, and there was always 100%. I mean, even if people were not on vacation, people came to those meetings. So even once we made the change and people were reporting to one person, then, you know, when your supervisor sends something out and says, you know, we're going to be meeting, plus we had clerical support. Let me say that we had clerical support for all the advisors. Each center had clerical support. So we had clerical support. So, and the clerical support actually has access to all the advisors' schedules. So they would just go in and block it out. This is a meeting from this day to this day. This is a development of staff meeting from 9 to 12 on Friday. This is this. So that time was blocked off. So they all knew that at that particular time they were to report to that meeting. So, and that really helps. We also created a calendar for activities and events, so we could see when advisors were going to be out on vacation, when there were going to be different things. So, I mean, you really have to coordinate and think about every little thing when you're doing, and when you have that many people that, you know, you're trying to coordinate all the efforts on. So it really took us some time to get there. Yes. At the time, we had 10 advisors. We have 10 advisors, and then there was the one supervisor is what we had. We had 10 advisors. Because some centers had 2 advisors, some centers had 3 advisors. So it really just depends. But it was like, so it took that, and then we involved all the deans and the chairs as well. So it took, any other questions about the structure and what we've done? Yes.
Are these advisors full-time?
They are all full-time. All the advisors are full-time, yes. Advisors are full-time. So and the other thing that we did not change, some of the advisors had been there. There was years of experience from some areas. Some of the advisors had been there for a number of years. Some advisors had been there for a couple of years. So we didn't mess with anybody's pay. That was one thing we did not do. It was like up until the last couple of years, we have started to look at salaries and try to bring the salaries closer together. And every year we have worked to try to get advisors' salaries up. So, and try to get them basically within the same ranges. It's what we've done. So, but all of this was done prior to that. Those people that have been there for long periods of time, their salaries were already up a little bit more.
You had mentioned about expectations, so I just want, because someone asked about expectations, and I just want to show you what every advisor has on their, in front of their computer. About what we expect from them, and we're leaving all this information with you. But she mentioned, and I heard a question, so I want you to see the document that every advisor has on their desk.
Yeah, you know, and the advisors all agree to that. You know, about treating everybody with respect, answering emails, phone calls within a certain limit of time frame, not leaving students there out there waiting, send congratulatory cards and communication, document the students' files. All the advisors use student contacts. We all use, and so they don't have an option. Everybody uses student contacts. Everybody, I mean, they all, like Cathy said, they all utilize everything that's in here. They follow up on action items. I mean, these are expectations, so they are evaluated on these expectations, and they all agreed upon those things. So these are the things that we expect to be flexible. The schedule, sometimes we have students that can't meet from the 8 to 5 time frame. So that means that they may have to flex schedules, or we have to meet students after 5 o'clock and those type of things. So those are all the things that we accept. Walk-ins, I mean, everybody just does the same principles in terms of what things in the office, yes.
So you were using the electronic advising notes that were in the system, and have you gone over to the address now?
We are. We're making that transition. We have all the advisors in that transition. We've met. We've talked about what that means. We've talked about how. So yes, everybody is in that process. We've got all our advisors up and running into that. In fact, Jim Murray, we just talked to him on last Friday, and he said pretty soon they're going to make that transition. So we're all ready to go to advising records. We also, all the advisors are also using the academic planner. We use the academic planner. And we expect students to come in ready with the courses, the academic planner. We have peer advisors in the center, and Cathy is going to talk more about that, because I mean she's really into the centers, and she's really working. This year she's really been working with the advisors, and she can tell you more about how they use and what they do within all those things. But that really works for us. I mean, it really works for us. Once you get through the initial part, our retention rates, you can see our retention and enrollment rates. I mean, our enrollment rates were low. This year we have the highest enrollment rates that we've ever had in the history of IU Kokomo. We have the highest enrollment rate. And we have been on an upward swing for the last 5 years. And we work very closly with admissions. Admissions and advising is just like this. I mean, the advisors work their VIP, which is admissions, one of their recruitment things. We work VIP, and I tell you, we have our orientations on Saturday, and we have the whole camp. I mean, we have faculty that come in, we have deans that come in, we have all the advisors that come in, our chancellor comes in. Everybody comes in because we told them this had to be a campus initiative. It had to be a campus effort. It could not be solely on the advisor's back, so everybody had to buy into it. And because everybody has bought into it, like this, over the last 5 years, enrollment has skyrocketed and our retention rates have gone up. So that, I mean, when you're talking money for the campus and you're talking about your numbers are improving, you can't beat it. I mean, so once people began to see that, and our faculty on our campus did not want to advise. They made it very clear. They did not want to advise. They wanted to be mentors. Let me work with the students. Let me tell them when they get to their junior year what they can do, what they can do with the major in this. Let me mentor them about graduate schools. Let me mentor them about jobs. Let me mentor them about other things. But they didn't want to know the rules and regs. And our students were getting in trouble because they didn't want to know it, they didn't learn it, and they said they didn't want to go there. So, you know, but it was a culture of our campus, and once we made that change, I mean, it would be hard pressed for you to come on our campus right now and ask any advisor if any faculty member, if they want to go back to the advising way. They'll tell you, no, I don't even want to go there. So, I mean, so they really like the fact that we're doing the advising. We're doing all the rules, regulations, monitoring the student part. And yes, send to me, and Cathy's going to talk about the junior mentoring process, where we have a junior mentoring process where advisors in each, the faculty members in each department are working with our students, and they're talking to them. We have a list of things that they've come up with that they've agreed upon that they want to discuss with every student that's in their major. Like, you know, are you interested in graduate school? Are you on track for graduation? Those type of things that they are interested in. You know, are you interested in doing any research? Are you in an undergraduate research? Can I help you with any of those things? Can I help you with getting into a grad school? Can I help you with, you know, a major, shadowing? Those kind of things. What kind of jobs are you looking for? That's what they want to do. And that's what they're doing. So it has worked for all of us. But it has to be an institutional commitment. It has to be from the top. I'm telling you, it has to be an institutional commitment. Because if you don't have that whole campus commitment, it won't work. It will not work. The chancellor is there, like I said, the chancellor, the vice chancellor, all the advisors, the deans and the chairs, and they all, Cathy can tell you, she works with the deans and we work with the deans and the chairs. They love advisors. I mean, we had a thing that last year we were talking about priorities on the campus as far as salaries and funding. And all the dean says, you know, if it comes to giving raises or me funding another position, let's give the advisors some additional raises this year as opposed to doing that, because they know how hard the advisors work. They know that the work on our campus in terms of enrollment and in terms of growth has been on the back of advisors. They understand that. And they'll tell you they're growing our programs, because the ones that are assigned to me, I mean, they're going to departmental meetings with the chairs and the deans. They're talking to the faculty. They're talking about what can we do. The advisors are going to Ivy Tech. The advisors are helping them with their programs. They're going to their recruiting events. They're doing all of that in addition to what they're expected to do with the students and their course assignments. Yes.
I wonder if you could talk about the transition specifically of the 10 that you have now or that you had in first stage.
Mm-hmm.
Were all of them already working at IU Kokomo in some capacity? Did you transition some from different positions and then add some? Can you talk a little bit about how you got those people on board?
We had advisors in every department. We already had advisors in every department. Huh?
Are they all staff?
Yeah, they're all staff. They're all PAEs, in fact. Every advisor is a PAE. If you look at the IU system, they're the PAEs. Yeah, so they all are staff. They all get benefits. And we did there was one area that had a halftime advisor, but we don't have any halftime advisors anymore. As we've worked through this and as we looked at the loads of advising, then everybody that was on board, nobody lost a job, nobody's salary was changed. That was made clear up front. We weren't going to mess with anybody's money, and we're not going to mess with anybody's salary. So people are not going to lose their jobs. That was number one. That was put on the table up front. People are not going to lose their jobs, and you're not going to lose any money. If you started 10 years ago, your salary is going to stay where it is. If you started a year ago, your salary is going to stay where it is. So we didn't mess with anybody's money. And when you tell people you're not going to mess with their money and you're not going to mess with their position, then that helped.
Is that good or bad? I mean,
Well, on our campus it was,
incentive to improve.
huh?
If you're not going to mess with anybody's money, where's the incentive to improve?
Well, there's an incentive to improve.
There's an
Transition.
that was just from the transition. But then now that we've transitioned and we see the evidence, and if you look at the formula for what IU has for bringing money and bringing things to the campus, the incentives are there for every campus to bring in money. I mean, to bring in students and to want students to succeed. You know, you get money when students meet 30 hours, 60 hours, 90 hours. That's money for the campus. Every new student that comes into the campus, if they're 21st century, if they're 21st century or whatever, I mean, every student, regardless of they bring income to the campus. And now you get money when students graduate. That's our incentive to move forward. I mean, because we get money based on our graduation rate. Our graduation rate, if we look at those have gone up as well. Our graduation rate has gone up. Yeah, the graduation rate has even gone up. So we've gone up in every area since we've made this change. So it has been nothing but good for our campus all the way around, and people see that. So they can't fight that. I mean, they can't fight that argument. Our enrollment trends, our retention trends are there. You know, our retention was right at 53%. Our retention right now is right at 66%. Is that good? I mean, it's gone up. We're striving to make it higher. I mean, you look at some of the other trends, things have gone up. Enrollment has gone up. We're up 12% in enrollment. In the summers, we're up. In the summers, I mean, people treat, you know, most people on the campus, they may say, okay, fall enrollment, we've got to get fall. But we treat spring enrollment, summer enrollment, just like it's fall enrollment. We don't care what it is. Our goal is to get those students to the door. Our goal is always to have at least a 75% yield. We don't care what's going on. Our goal is to have a 75% yield for those students that come through that door. And we have exceeded that every year since we've had this in place.
When you say retention went from 53 to 66, that's first year to second year, correct?
Right, that's for, we really clearly looked at the retention rate the way IU looks at it. So yes, that's from fall cohort to the next fall cohort. So our retention rates have gone up, and plus the new students that's coming in the door is going up. Yes.
So you're attributing the increased numbers to the whole advising?
We're attributing to advising. We've also attributed to that we've added athletics. We've added athletics to our campus within the last 2 years. We're in the NAIA, we've added that to our campus. We have a wellness and fitness center that we added this year. We have a new gym. I mean, this is just within the last year though. So we didn't have those things prior to that. Yeah, that was prior to, that was, you know.
But how do you decouple that from the economic trends of the United States?
Beg your pardon?
How do you decouple that from the economic trends that?
How do we decouple? How do we separate that from?
There are 4 economic forces that.
What he's saying is that our enrollment went up as well. We didn't do anything to advising.
But our
Well-
retention's not.
Well, it did a little bit. And this is all
But, I mean, we,
68% over there, 61 at the bottom. That's not that big. So that could be different from normal fluctuation. So.
You know,
Well,
I can appreciate your response. I can appreciate both of you gentlemen's response because there was an economic situation that happened in the nation. Okay, but the reality is once that economic situation happened, those
You
students
see-
had the option of then leaving.
yes, right, and they
I mean, 'cause
stayed.
when I started seeing students who wanted to go to Anderson, but their mama and daddy's money got funny, and they had to go to Indiana University, Kokomo, and just prove it to their parents that they could do college well, that student didn't leave me. Now, the reason that student didn't leave me because they got involved in Indiana University, and they got connected with my faculty, and they always were seeing advisors, and they saw peer advisors. So yes, we know there's some things that we aren't taking into account, and I'm not saying that advisors did this by themselves, but I think we had a system in place that when that rush of students came to us, we were able to effectively make a difference. I was an advisor for the School of Arts and Sciences. And the School of Arts and Sciences faculty did the advising. So that meant sociologists, English, philosophy, history, and the sciences. Faculty loved their discipline. They loved their content, they loved their research, and advising was service. Faculty didn't keep up with current changes that take place in the system. So what would happen? Errors would happen. Big time errors. In the School of Arts and Sciences, retention rate was the pits. And I'll explain it this way. In particular for the sciences, I have math people here, right? Okay, all right. Particularly for the sciences, students are attracted to the biology because they want to be a physician, or a dentist, or a veterinarian, or a pharmacist, the pre-professional programs, right? And so when faculty advised, they did the following. I have evidence of this because, again, I followed the faculty advisors. They would put a student, regardless of how they came to my door, regardless of the tests and the transcripts, they would put a student in biology 105, chemistry 105, 125, and the math. Now, I'm sorry. That's just a way of getting a revolving door. If you can't cut it, you ought to go someplace else. That's fine if you're at Bloomington, okay? My kids went to Bloomington, and they could cut it. But at the regional campus where I'm from, if you tested in the math 117, and someone just put you in the chemistry 105, because my background, by the way, I'm a pharmacist by trade, so I understand what I advise about courses. If you put a student in chemistry 105, 126, and they tested into 117, what did you just do to that student?
Made them go out the door.
And by the way, that's 5 credit hours.
Yeah.
That's over $1,000. Okay? And so from my perspective, it was clearly unethical. And it was nice to have a leader who didn't mind taking a good fight with me. Because when I said it was unethical, and I looked at you in your face and told you it was unethical, she took the heat for me. Because it was unethical. We were taking these young men and women's money, and they were not prepared for it. And so a professional advisor then come in and said, wait a minute, we have to do a better job of analysis. Because I got time for that. I mean, that's what I do. I do the analysis. Before I meet with my students, I may spend 30 or 40 minutes looking at that and I'm talking about new students. We'll talk about continuing students later. But I'll spend 30 or 45 minutes looking at their placement exam, looking at their high school transcript, and we also have other data that we look at in terms of attitude and motivation, because that's a huge factor. You can test into 117 and be highly motivated and put the sweat equity in and do well. We've got plenty of examples of those. And so the School of Arts and Science, they have the issue for us. And it wasn't because my faculty weren't good faculty. They were excellent in their discipline. I mean, my psych program has almost a 90% retention. Continuing student registration began Monday. Wednesday, half of their 300 level classes were closed. Now that wasn't happening before we had professional advisors. Because what professional advisors will do, with the help of a faculty, they'll allow us to come into their class and spread some good news about advising, and talk about technology that they use, the AARs, the academic planners, and then psych faculty, because of the way they think, they also will give you a sheet that says exactly when their courses are offered, by semester and by year. So that once you train a student how to use the academic planner, then what will happen, they'll put all the courses required for graduation, and then they'll map out a graduation plan. A professional advisor got time for that. Faculty don't. They didn't have that much time for that. And so, there are some things out there that we don't control, but then that's just life. There's a lot of crap out there I don't control. But as a professional advisor, I have more time. And I was one of the advisors that embraced it because I was a newbie. I mean, I've been with Indiana University Kokomo for 17 years, and I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to tell y'all. Gerry, I can't help it. December 31st, 2013, I retired. Thank you, Lord. I took it. I took it. I'm only telling you that because that's why I'm so happy all the time. Okay? That's why I'm happy anyway. But I'm especially happy now. Because if you ever been around me, I mean, this is how I am before, but I'm really happy now. And I ain't ashamed to be happy about it. But when I came in the door to Indiana University, I was with the Office of Campus Climate. People used to call me and say, it's snowing outside, is the campus closed? It wasn't that type of campus climate. It was diversity and equity. Okay? And so I grew up in the academy through student services. And so that meant I worked with student activities, admissions, financial aid, programming. So I really understood programming. And so then some things happened, and I was asked to join, not give up campus climate, okay, but join academic advising, okay? And I did. I embraced that because that meant I could track students and have a way of making an impact on students. But a new advisor like me, I needed a system. I needed a system because there was no booklet given to me on what advisors should do and what was expected of me. Okay? And so when you have a leader who's taking all the hit, you have to have a follower who says, hey, and I'm going to do this right. Somebody has to stand up with her because she's taking all the hits. She took all the hits.
I did.
But she needed someone that says, and I'm going to push the envelope. Because you know what happens if you got somebody that pushes the envelope? I'm sorry, other folks get shamed. Because all of a sudden the School of Arts and Science, after we fixed this issue about putting these biology majors in these cluster classes, the School of Arts and Science, the science program, that dean loves me. and for real, he shot her an email, can we clone Cathy before she leaves?
That's right.
Okay? True story.
They did. And the deans love all the advisors. They'll tell you in a minute. I love my advisors. Don't change them. Don't do anything. I love this advisors. Don't do anything to them. I mean, they love them.
We even go to their, the advisors do something else that's smart. Any chemistry in here? You know, after that first chemistry 105 test, that performance, you know how your students fail it. A lot because they just don't study right? Okay, very good. I knew it wasn't your kids, it was my kids. Okay, it was my kids. I knew it was my kids. Well, what we found after the first test, half the students, because they bring in high school study skills, and nationally we know the high school study skills at home, where they do their homework, nationally it's 6 hours a week. Now that's what we need just for one class, right? And so after the first test, the chemistry faculty would allow us to come in with a student from last year who aced the course, who studied out bad, and we stand in front of the class and said, listen, some of you all got an F on that first test. If you don't want to repeat that, this young man, this young lady will have a study group, a student-led study group, right across the hall, right next to the chemistry faculty. And we've tracked that. And students who met with those leaders, their grades went from F to either B or an A. Because we just have to get in their head and teach them how to study a different topic in a different way. And that's because faculty allowed us in the classroom. Because now they don't have to spend time, this is a course you need to take this semester, this is a course you need to take that semester. Now you can do some other things. So did that help you guys? Did that help you with that? Go back, Gerry.
And I'm just saying, we just attributed to that. I mean, that was the major change that we made on our campus, basically. So that's how we can take and we don't have any problems, and our administration don't even have a problem saying yes. It was because we changed these things. I mean, that's how you have to look at things. What changes did you make that makes the outcome different? And that's what we looked at. Any other questions about the structure and how we made that transition to advising and what took place? Okay, all right.
You mentioned you had 10 advisors, full-time advisors. You had to take these from other units, and there must have been politics involved. You take people from one unit to advise you. How did you deal with that politics?
Again, the administration, the chancellor made that decision up front. The chancellor and the vice chancellor for academic affairs made that decision up front that all advisors, every advisor on campus, because they may have been an advisor in business, They were housed in business, the budget was in business, but when they made that decision to put centralized advising, the advisor, the position, the budget for that person, everything came to the Office of Student Success and Advising. So they pulled that part of it out, and that's how the budget, that's how everything was established for the Office of Student
There must
Success.
have been some disgruntled directors elsewhere.
Well, I'm saying the dean, at first the deans, like I said, the deans and the chairs were very upset. But once they accepted this and knew that this was a campus decision and this was going to happen regardless of what, then, I mean, they had no choice. And the budget director was directed that the advisor comes with this. This is a salary. It goes to the Office of Student Success and Advising budget. This person, if there's travel, if it was $2,000 in travel for that budget, and that person, that travel, that money for that travel goes with that person. So so the telephone budget went with that person. So and it was a fair thing because like in University Division, we had 3 people in there. So that budget went there. We went education. Education had an advisor in there. That budget went with, so that's how we established that office. So the campus didn't have to come up with like new monies for all of that. All that money was already there on campus. It just had to be redirected. Yes.
The change to the sports centers, what happened with the exploratory students?
The exploratory, they were in a center with the College of Arts and Sciences.
So it was part of COAS then?
Yes.
Right, It is, and exploratory students, and
Is it still part of COAS?
Yes.
it is. We changed COAS to the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, and we have the School of Sciences. We split it last year, but exploratory is still part of that academic advising center. We kept it, so, and we have, right now we have an advisor that exclusively deals with exploratory students. And so that's how we have this. So that's how, and all our advisors cross-trained. So even though they're assigned and they have expertise in certain centers and certain majors, they cross-train. They have a meeting by themselves because they even told me they didn't want me in the meeting. So it was their own little meeting. So they cross-train each other and talk about their specific majors. So if a student came in, if the nursing advisor was not there, was not available, we didn't want to send anyone away. So what we do, the secretary can look, we have an office manager who is the administrative assistant who can look at anybody. All our clerical staff, we have 4 clerical support people to manage the centers. And then we have 2 hourly people that help manage the center. And then we have 9 peer advisors. We have 9 peer advisors. So all those people, so they can look at everybody's schedule. So if somebody comes in and if an advisor is not available here, the person can say, okay, this advisor can't see you, but there's an advisor here that's available and that can see you. So we make sure that there is that interconnection so that all the advisors understand. And then what they do, if they see a student, they leave that folder, they shoot that other advisor an email or say, look, I saw this student, this is what I did with this student, bam, I'm gonna leave your folder, or you can go to advisor notes, look at the advisor notes for this student. If there's any changes need to be done, please make those changes and please advise me. I mean, so they have that kind of, that's one of the things that we put into that they do, yes.
How closely do your advisors work with the Office of Career Services for those students who are exploratory, undecided students?
They work very closely.
Refer them back and forth? Do you all administer assessments to help with giving them guidance and direction as well?
I'll let Cathy answer that, but we do.
We need to do more. Okay, they have a small department also, but just recently, the career services, they have a new name and I don't know it right
It's,
now. Accessibility career.
I can't think of it, they've changed it, yeah.
But they recently received some additional funding, and so they were able to hire some peer mentors. And these peer mentors are major specific, and they go into the, like if you're a psych major, the really entry point for a psych major would be the P211, the research methods, right? And so they would go into that class and they talk about the careers, because before they get to the class, they do the research about what careers a graduate with a BS in psychology can look forward to, or what type of graduate program. And we have those across the campus, across the schools, where we have peer mentors. And the manager of career services, she attends all, or she will go with all the freshman learning community, and ask the students. We still use the Siggy Plus. Okay, I would like to see us use more than the Siggy Plus, but I understand why we use the Siggy Plus. Sometimes it can be a little cumbersome. She attends our meetings, our professional advisors meetings. We work with her from the very beginning when we started talking to students. From that very first appointment, we talk about the services she provides. Okay, and I think the first appointment that an advisor has with a student is the first step to retention, especially if the mom and dad gets there. Because yeah, we talk about the big picture, and the big picture is this. So you want to be a pharmacist? Great. Let's go visit Purdue's website and see what the application process looks like. Let's look at the courses that they require. Let's look at the GPA they want, and let's look specifically at the GPA that they want in that major. Let's talk about the big picture first. No use waiting. And then after we talk about that, we talk about why Indiana University Kokomo was the best choice. We talk about the 5-point, I call it the 5-point personal development plan. Our chancellor called it DREAM, and it's an acronym that means something I don't remember. But first of all, the first thing we tell a student, and I love when parents are there, I need to get you involved. I know you think you need all your hours doing the math and the chemistry, but the very first thing you need to do, you need to get involved. And you'll find by getting involved in the psych club, I love talking about psych, you're going to meet other psych majors that are sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and they've taken these courses. And they can talk to you about faculty's teaching style and what they learned, how they study for that, activities they were involved in, and plus you had a beautiful opportunity of being mentored by a faculty advisor who has no power over you. They just want to feed into you. They're not giving you a grade because of that. So because we are, the academy is where you develop leaders, right? And so you begin that by getting involved in a student organization. That's your first step of leadership, right? And so we talk about getting involved. Don't be scared. Find something you're passionate about, or do something you major. The second thing we ask them to do is to be a servant. How many of us participate in Relays for Life? The Susan B. Cohen. We all do. It's not an expectation. It's just who we are as people in the academy. We give back. And so we tell them to find a service project that they want to participate in. And we tell them they can either do one by joining a campus initiative, because we have campus initiatives that raise money for the women's shelter, or they can create their own. And oftentimes students will create their own. And we say, not only create your own, find your friends and colleagues and peers and get them involved. Because that's what we expect once you join the academy and you leave the academy, that you're going to be a servant leader. Then the third thing we ask them to do is to identify a faculty mentor. Identify a faculty mentor that can mentor you appropriate behavior in your discipline. Because you have to learn that, right? They don't come to us automatically with that experience. We still have a lot of first generations. So we tell them, I find a faculty mentor. And then we talk about that internship. Okay, the faculty mentor and career services can help you with internship. Now the data is out there. I remember when my kids were, my adult kids, I don't know what word to use, when they graduated, they all had internships. And nationally, when they graduated, 75% of the offers of employment that were put on the table came from an internship perspective. So we bring in career services, and we begin to tell them that career services will help you this from the very beginning. This is not a conversation you want to have at your junior level. You want to have this conversation at the senior level. I mean, at that freshman level, right? So that's when we talk about internship. And then we say, and then let's not forget about studying abroad. See, because I know what pharmacy looks like in the United States, because I practice it. But what in the world does it look like in Korea? What does it look like in France? What does it look like in Italy? You need to go find out. And why? Because you and I both know the world's flat now because of technology. My mama is in the hospital. And when they took that x-ray from her at 2 o'clock in the morning, there was not anyone to read that. They sent that someplace via the internet for someone else to read it who was awake, because it was a normal business time. The world is flat because of technology. So we encourage our students to study abroad. And these 5 things we talk about at the very first appointment, that's a retention issue. Why? Because if the mom and daddy's there, I have given them a hook. They like that conversation. And students like all that. They're excited anyway. They still don't know about the work, but they love that ideal, right? That's big picture stuff. And then we get into the first advising appointment. You asked about the capacities, you asked about the centers, and I put that up on the wall. The bottom school, that's the the old school of arts and sciences. What do you guys call yours up here? College of Arts and Sciences.
We call it, yeah.
That was a change that took place. I like the change. I just can't remember what all the acronyms stand for. That's just my age. But you can see we're now the largest school on campus. And our retention, if I could, I should have brought you that, but we can send you that. Our retention is better now, okay? And so that's, I think, why I think advising makes a difference for me in a center. I want to show you, give me a chance.
And we do track our retention by schools too, and by centers. So advisors know what their own retention rate is in their particular centers, and we do an overall. Some of them do better than others.
See, as a brand new advisor, I didn't know this. I didn't know this. So if I didn't have a system to plug into, I would just be talking about what I thought was important. But we all know this information is important at the first advising appointment. And the first advising appointment normally lasts about an hour and 15 minutes, up to an hour and a half.
Hour and 15 minutes.
Okay? And we'll start seeing, do you guys start your continuing student registration this week? Oh, you started Monday? New and continuing. We don't see new students right away. We can't. We cannot see new students because our students are so trained now that they will come into the office for their appointment. You know the other thing we've learned? We do group advising now. And we've got a little smarter. We've done it before, but we're much smarter now with our group advising. One academic advisor, one peer advisor, 5 students, 2 hours in a computer lab. Peer advisor logs in. You get their permission. They bring up their own OneStart. And we walk these brand new freshmen through how to add courses to their academic planners. Well, think about it. 5 students, 1 advisor, 2 hours.
Oh, it's good. She's excited.
Okay. Because that was my challenge. I wanted to convince my advisors that it could really be successful. So I've taken this on. And I really supervise advisors, but I'm taking this on because I want to tell my advisors that it really worked. And so it works beautifully, guys, because what happens, we got to have people graduate in 4 years, and we're going to be held accountable for it. Institution will have to pay for it if it doesn't happen. You have to have a plan. So you bring these students in a classroom, a computer room, you have a peer advisor, walk them through, you give them their program guide, and you have them walk them through how to add all the classes they need to graduate, all right? We also have a workable PDF. When you hover over it, words pop up.
Yeah.
What is that called? PDF?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We send that to them also. We email them that while they're in the group advising session. Because, you can take care of the major easy because, the major is kind of prescriptive. But that's Gen Ed, we have so many options, right? In the workable PDF, when they hover over it, when they download it and they open up the document, they can hover over it and they see a course description. How smart is that? See, because now you're using this time wisely because now you're teaching them to learn how to use our bulletin that's online, but you give them in a format they can deal with. A one-page workable PDF. They know what English is going to be in English 131, 132, Social 100, Psych 103, Psych 216, math. This course description there. And what I found, after they put all their courses in their academic planner, then we say, okay, now let me show you how to now register from the academic planner. And that's when you hear from the students, wow, this is so smart. This is so easy. We can show them how to put it in their enrollment shopping cart if we start before the registration period. And I started before the registration period. And so we have them put courses in the enrollment shopping cart. We have them validated. If they need any permissions, I'm right there to give them permissions right there. And then I'm able to track that. Okay, because that's part of what I do as a coordinator of academic advisor. I track what advisors do. See, I can contact the registrar. Is the registrar in here? The registrar will run reports for me in terms of the number of students who still have courses left in their shopping cart.
It didn't move them.
And then we can make some personal phone calls and say, hey, let's move those courses.
Yeah.
And so we are now doing group advising for 5 students every day with an academic advisor and a peer advisor, and we're moving people through. Yes?
I have a question. Your
Mr. Water.
academic advisors,
Yes.
is that all they do?
Oh,
No.
heck no. I got
No.
this. Let me put that screen up for you.
No.
I'd like to tell you that when I was advising, that's all I did. But no,
No.
Gary's not that type of
No.
manager. I'm not mad at her, but she's not that type of manager.
I have, I have charges too, so, we have to just make sure we delegate and get all of it up there. But yeah, no, but that, we wish that was all they did, but no, by no means, it's not all they do.
No.
They do a lot of things, and the screen went out.
It's coming
Oh.
back. Hit pick. There we go.
Okay, yeah.
And
We-
this
we-
is just
we-
the tip of the iceberg.
We anticipated that, so we wanted to make sure.
The biggest thing about advisors is finding us, right? And the thing the students don't want to do is come and find us, right? So one of the things we established was the Ask the Advisor table. You guys got a common area where, where the food is? Okay. We set up an Ask the Advisor table, 8-foot table, 2 computers, one for me, one for the students, drop slips, grade change slips, program guide slips, notify the campus. We have it on the flat screen TVs that there'll be an Ask Advisor from 11 to 1. Every day but Friday.
Every day, all year.
But Friday.
Friday.
But that's visual. Now you can see me. Mrs. Barnes, I've been wanting to see you. And if I see you walking around and I haven't seen you, I can call you, John, you need to see me. I'm sitting right here. Come and see me. Because I know you're going to wait till the very last minute, and then your class is going to be closed. And then you're going to be blaming it on us. No. And so we have a visual presence in a very high traffic area. One of the things we learned from Southeast, we stole that from them. They told us we could. Wild Week of Advising. We're going to do a Wild Week of Advising. You guys remember them talking about that? Yeah, we're going to try that next week. Okay? They have a theme. I'm not really engaged in it. Another advisor took that responsibility on. We do an athletic orientation now. One of our newest hired academic advisors who has advising experience from a residential program down in Mississippi. He raised his hand and says, I am going to create, because I know they need it, an orientation just for athletes. And it was on a Saturday. Okay? And so we have our members of a lot of campus and system committees. Okay? We participate in search and screen. I'm fortunate because of certain things. I've probably sat in on 20 search and screenings this last year.
We serve in the system committees, all the
advising,
campus
EAB,
committees.
SSC, we're on it. We certify graduates.
Yeah, they certify graduates.
Now, you want to talk about a challenge for a new advisor, the certified graduates? Now, we've made some changes, though, based on the recommendation coming from the chancellor and the vice chancellor. The chairs now help us with this. We do the initial work. We make sure all the gen eds are met. We make sure all the major requirements are met. We check for GPA. We check for credit hours. And then we get the chair or the coordinator for that department to help us certify, because we don't want to make any errors. Because that is not the time to make errors. And so every advisor certifies. Every advisor participates in orientation and convocation. And we have May, June, July, and August, and we have January and February.
December and January.
December and January.
December and January.
And most of them on Saturdays, and they're all day. So every advisor participates in orientation. And then the convocation is for brand new freshmen. We participate in that. The Student Success Center. There's an advisor that coordinates the Student Success Center. The Student Success Center is in the library. We have to provide tutors, and we have to provide study skills. And we specifically have to provide for our athletes, because they are required to attend at least 2 study tables. And this year, they're from 8 to 10 in the morning. Last year, when I was doing it, it was from 5:30 to 7:30. Okay, and so advisors are responsible for that. Every advisor is assigned to a freshman learning community. You guys have freshman learning communities? Freshman seminars?
Freshman seminar class. You don't have a class. You don't have a class where your freshmen go to. Oh, you do.
Okay,
Oh,
some schools do, some schools don't. Yeah, some. Yeah, and we understand that because sometimes, like, I'm not going to pick on nursing, but I can stop with nursing. Okay, good. This is why I'm glad I'm leaving. See, nursing's got an ethical issue on my campus. I've been telling Gerry, and she believes me. You can't take a student who tests in Algebra 1 and put them in anatomy or physiology. And so you can't do that.
But if you don't do it, according to the nursing department, or to the, they will not be able to get into that program, and you delay it for a year.
But
so they have to give them options. So you have to. It's up to the student whether they want to delay that year, or they want to take the chance and take those courses together. Because right now there is not an option. I mean, that's it. If you want to get in the nursing program, based on when you come in, based on their time schedule, then you have to do that. So it's our challenge, and that's what I keep telling all the advisors, our challenge is to help them to try to be successful if that's their choice. Now, if they choose to do something otherwise, then knowing that they're going to delay their graduation, that's fine. But if they want to try, then it's our challenge to help them get there.
Yeah, well, I ran the numbers. I love coming to the registrar's office. I said, tell me the number of students that took anatomy the first year as a nursing student that got into the nursing program 3 semesters. Okay? And it's not too many of them, maybe about 20%. So what happens to those students, you guys? We lose them, don't we?
Yeah, they come to SPIA.
They come to SPIA, they go to another program, or we lose them, period. Okay? And so that's another fight, and that's a system fight that we have to have. An advisor can't have that fight. That's more like a chancellor and a vice chancellor who has to bring those deans together and say, come on now, come on, man. We need to fix this. Why not just let them come in as undecided for a semester? If they're in math, if they're in Algebra 1, there's a disconnect. My math man, am I right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Every advisor goes to a department or school meeting, okay? And advisors also teach. We have a motivation class for probation students, and it was developed
by one of our advisors.
Yeah, find that slide so they can see it.
Let me see if I can find it.
And Kelly was a fairly new advisor. There you go. And she decided to take a graduate level psych class about motivation because she knows at the end of the day it is about motivation. And she used Curls to Wit. Has anyone ever read this book before? Oh, I read this book. I started applying it to my family and my friends. Okay, because it is about mindset. I don't have a fixed mindset anymore. And I tell students in particular, here's my perfect example. I can't do math. You got a fixed mindset. Because an open mindset says, I can do math. I just need to spend time in it. And I need to do more homework. But most of us kind of sit in a fixed mindset. And if we do that, we won't do well in math. Because we won't do all that additional homework.
George W. Bush said you can't do math.
I go say anything about that one.
Thank you. Because I'm about to retire and I could have said something inappropriate. So thank you for that statement. But yes, but we know it's a fixed mindset. And we know if you got a brain and you got time, you can do math. You can do chemistry. Because if you can't do math, doggone it, you're not going to be able to do chemistry, geology, and physics. And if you're in Math 7, Algebra 1, you clearly cannot connect the dots for anatomy. It's a freaking 200 level course. Right? And so Kelly, no one told her to, decided that our other program for probation students was like this. Okay? Student goes on probation. We send a postcard to the home. Okay, they send a postcard to the home. Kind of, for approval. You got problems, call your advisor and come to this workshop. And then we follow up with a letter. The postcard is so mom and daddy can read it. You got problems. Okay, you can come and see us.
But we send it to the student.
But we send it to the student. But I read my kids' mail all the time when they was in my house. And so they would come with their parents, and we would tell them about what probation means, because they didn't understand what probation meant. They didn't understand that if they repeat this again, we want to ask them to go home and think about some things. They didn't know that. They also didn't know, and they especially didn't know it today, that it's going to affect their financial aid. And then we'd sign them up for some workshops. Well, heck, if a student ain't going to a class, they ain't going to a workshop. That don't sound cool. And so Kelly said, we have to fix this. And so she, after reading this book, after working with some faculty, after going to some conferences, she came up with their motivation class. We started out with one class 2 years ago.
Got 3 now.
Now we have 3 sections that advisors teach. And I was in the class the other day, and they brought in a psych faculty who talked about the brain and how the brain works. And then I watched them draw pictures about what the brain does. And then I watched them teach each other how the brain works. And then I started listening to him use language that he used. Now, see, that program works. She's going to start presenting on her data. Now, she's changing a lot, because you have to change when you start something new, right? You have to fix it. And so this is another thing that advisors will do, teach classes. Now, we're grateful that our administrators pay advisors adjunct fees.
Yeah.
Okay, because all of them have to have a master's. And Kelly brings them together once a week, and they review what's taking place in class, best practices, and then she gets them ready for their class. We have it 1 day a week. We have it 2 day a week. We have 2 1 day and one is just 2 days.
How many credit hours?
3.
3.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. And you can't require students, but they do enjoy it. But what we know about this population, though, and what Kelly's data is showing us is that one class is not enough. It is never enough, because they often have big issues. And so you have to keep track with those students. And so we also have put peer advisors in the class, and they co-teach. So yeah, advisors do a lot of stuff. And yes.
But everything's related in some way to advising.
Everything is related to advising. Because advising is teaching.
Yeah.
So when
Everything.
They co-teach, who's paying for that?
Excuse me?
When they co-teach, how is it funded?
Well, the peer advisors, we pay the peer advisors hourly.
You mean why we pay
this
the
class?
advisors?
Yeah.
It's housed under the college. It's housed in humanities and social
Yes,
science.
thank you.
So that's put in the administration. The administration puts that money in the budget, just like you pay an adjunct for a course. So the students go into the course, they pay.
When you co-teach, who gets the credit for teaching?
Well, no. See, the co-teaching is with a academic
big
advisor
advisor.
and a peer advisor. The peer advisors are students.
Oh.
And
So
we
they
pay them
get paid.
hourly
Yeah, they get paid
for
out.
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how your whole disability support services and advising works. And is it completely separate? Do students who need disability services get advising under this whole, are they included in this whole umbrella of plan, or is there any?
Disability services is housed in career services.
Student
But
services.
advisors see students with specific needs, okay? But the services, so that faculty are aware of who's in the class, come from the Office of Career Services. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
It's
But
career
advisors
services
see
and-
students,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Like if I see a student who has Asperger's
Right.
and they divulge that, then I tell my people when Susan schedules an appointment, give me 2 hours, because I'm going to need that. And then the other thing we've learned to do in our professional development that Gerry was talking about that we require, we now bring in certain people to our professional development. Like we bring in psych faculty to teach us helping skills so we can effectively deal with that population. Because maybe your campus isn't like ours, but we're seeing more and more students with special needs.
Is that part of the first meeting, or do you wait for students?
Well, they have to disclose.
Okay.
They have to disclose. No, I can't.
Yeah, we don't ask
You
them.
don't suggest that the services are available?
No. During orientation, career services will do a presentation, and they say this is one of the services they provide.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is advising mandatory for every single?
No, you didn't. No, we're going to get there. You guys put holds on account until they see an advisor?
Yes.
Some do, some don't.
Nurse secretary.
Well, of course you guys do.
You know what, Miss Cathy, you gonna retire, don't make it hard.
But some of our colleagues around the state, the regionals, they do. East
We
does,
don't.
Southeast does, Columbus does, and we would like to put holds on them. And not a random hold. I think we need to be smart about it. And I've asked the advisors to think about it. Okay? A freshman better not come in the door unless they see an academic advisor. Don't let your cousin. This is what we see. We did little surveys. So we asked them, and we did a survey in the Commons at the Ask the Advisor table. So where do you get your advising information from? About Indiana University Kokomo. I heard my mama, my cousin, my friend, my boyfriend, Ivy Tech. I got scared.
Yeah.
Okay? And not that these aren't good people, but when we have to complete in 4 and we're going to be responsible, then we need to make sure that incoming freshmen cannot register for a class until they see an academic advisor. Okay? And now the other population, they're still out on. I personally think freshmen and sophomores. Because once you get to that junior level and you can see it, oh, you're good to go. You might want to put a hold on them at that senior level to make sure that they're really ready to go. Because that's how we can eliminate those slips. The person who says, I'm ready to go, you told me I was ready to go, and they 6 credit hours shy. Okay, so we're thinking about that. Does that help?
So it's brand new students, freshmen, and transfers are required?
Yes. We don't
We
have it
we
yet.
don't put holes on
We
it.
don't have it yet, but it's going to happen. And I was at
They'll put
the
holds
Dean's
on 'em.
Council meeting. What's the Dean's Council meeting? And the Chancellor was there. And this was about 45 days ago. She said, well, let's make that happen now. No, I can't make that happen right now. Because you got to give people, this is about to roll out. Otherwise, they get upset with you. And so we didn't make it happen for this spring. Okay? Because we have a system in place. We've got a media and marketing message in play that drives people to us. There is
What you looking for?
that flyer. I'm going to put it on the docking camera. We created our own media and marketing plan.
Oh, you have it in there?
That sophomore left. We created our own media and marketing plan because we wanted the campus to know what advisors were doing, why we can't attend your event. This is not the week to ask the advisor to do anything because we're seeing walk-ins, we're doing group advising, we have appointments. Most advisors have at least 8,
I don't see it.
12
Kathy.
appointments a day, Monday through Friday. And it'll be this way until the week before Thanksgiving. Because our highest retention, as we all know, is fall to spring, right? And it gets scary the fall to fall, but fall to spring is when we see our highest retention. So we came up with a media and marketing.
I don't see it in here,
Plan.
Kathy.
I can find it.
Did you put it in here?
Well, I probably done shuffled up the paper.
It's not in this stack.
Give me a moment. I apologize. I'm kind of unorganized.
It's not in
Aha,
that.
here it is.
Oh, I thought it was one that had all the stuff on it.
What percentage of new students do you see in your advising session?
See, I think we see about 75% of them. Okay, because you guys
I
have
would think
orientation
more than
here.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, we don't do any. Most of our registration for classes take place before they get to orientation. Okay, is that what you guys do?
Yeah.
Isn't it better?
A lot better.
We normally see maybe, and I have a slide that'll show you that, we normally will register anywhere between 15 and 20 students at an orientation. All of them are pre-registered.
And we usually have about 100, between 120, 150. It depends on which orientation it is. We can guess how many students we're going to have. But if we have 150, 100, sometimes we have close to 200, 180, 198. But in all those orientations, on orientation day, we have about 22 students at the most that have to register on that day because we've seen all of them prior to that. So that makes it a good day for us, and they just do the orientation activities, and then afterwards, advisors don't have to spend a lot of time just going through and trying to help them select classes.
You guys do a probation work. What do you do for your probation students?
stat pass class.
Okay.
Okay,
The motivation.
that motivation class. And the reason why we do that is because part of their assignment is to check with their advisor every month and share their goals. Because within the classroom, they have to come up with some goals. Okay, I'm gonna work out 5 days a week. I'm gonna do a better job of budgeting. I'm gonna spend X number of hours studying my math. And then they're supposed to meet with the academic advisor once a month and tell us what their goals are and if they accomplish their goals. And then, by the way, if they're with a professional advisor, we know some other things to do. Okay, let me see that on-course grade book.
Is it mandatory?
No, it's not mandatory. We don't have
Not
teachers
mandatory.
yet. But we're doing a really good job of promoting it. And we've also found that another population that it works well for are those transfer students who transfer with a very low GPA.
And we also send a letter to our probationary students. Though we send a letter once we get that list that they're probationary students. We send a letter to them, asking them to come in to see their advisor, you know. And then then they created this. I saw Cathy had that postcard that we're starting. That says "Step up your game."
This is what we did this year to
I don't know
drive in
which-
sophomores. We put that on our TV monitors and we sent them out to us.
And then we did.
Within 5 days, all advisors' calendars got full. We drove them to, and we also had one for juniors.
And then we start using this one. It says "Step up your game." Contact your academic advisor.
After the 5-week report, turn it the other way, Gary.
Oh.
You know, you guys do the 5 and 10, right?
Yeah.
Turn again.
One more time.
There you go. There you go. You know, you guys do the 5 and 10, right? Before
Oh,
we just
okay.
sent a postcard. And so we had media and marketing create something, and then I went out again. I'm all about taking the product and see what students say. I took this out to the comments. I said, so if you receive this from me, what does that tell you? Ooh, I better call you right now.
Okay, so it doesn't say probation.
No.
No, it
just
says
you
step
better
up your game.
Okay?
Step up your game.
Okay.
We know better than put because of yeah. We
Okay.
won't put anything on the postcard.
This sending out letters to students under 2.0. This past semester, we even sent letters to students borderline 2.0. You know, they're,
Yeah, we send and then we call. We send postcards. Well, we send and then we call. We have a person in our office that works 10 hours a week. There is one person that we just inherited that works 10 hours a week. Before then, advisors were calling. But then we made the decision that this person that worked 10 hours a week, he does phone calling for us. So if a person comes in, they're on probation, or we need to get them in the office, then it's his responsibility to make sure advisors work with him to say, okay, this person I need to see, I have not seen this person. Contact this person. So we do that. I mean, we will contact a student at least 3 times if we need to see them. After the 3rd time, we put in the advisor notes, and, you know, we just say, you know, we've done our best to try to get this student in. So,
One
but
of the other
that's,
things that we did that helps out with this situation, we were invited, Office of Student Success and Advising was invited to the adjunct dinner. And we gave them the contact list of all the academic advisors, but they gave me 5 minutes to speak to the adjuncts. And what I told the adjuncts, and I later told the faculty and faculty senate, if you have a student missing the first week of class and the second week of class, don't worry about who the academic advisor is. You send that email to me, and we'll take care of that. Because we have this part-time advisor that Gerry talks about, who then will make those phone calls with us. Because we do know that if they don't show up the first week or two, they're also going to be at a 5 and 10 week report. But we hear all types of interesting reasons why they weren't there, but we're not following up. And what that gave us, it definitely improved our relationship with faculty. They began to trust us, and the adjuncts began to trust us. Because as soon as we were able to contact that student and find out what the issue is, if we could bring that student back to class, they went back to class. Okay? And then sometimes students do, you guys have the same issue. Sometimes students just say, oh, I just changed my mind, that's it. And so then we can do some administrative withdrawing or having them go in and drop all their classes. Yes?
When you're talking about the 5 and 10 week report, are you doing this through flags?
Yes, that's exactly what we're using, flags. And we're about ready to do, I can't wait for, you guys using EAB yet?
Practicing pilot.
You guys have been pilot?
Yeah, just started pilot science,
Yeah.
computer science, and one of the departments.
Yeah, we're working on our pilot as we speak. The advisors have until November the 7th to go through the training and go to the assessment, okay? And we also we're piloting business, nursing, and science, okay? Those, and so we have to get the deans to also go through the modules and then go through the assessment so they can begin to look at the data. Because I'm real convinced that I want to see advisors, I want to see my faculty work really more with the murky in the middle, okay? Because I think that's where we can make a difference. I believe if you have a biology major who wants to be a professional, whatever that would be, and they received a C- or C or C+ in biology L105, they're going to have a difficult time graduating in 4 years. Okay, they just don't have the academic.
Could you raise the issue of faculty? What is the faculty? Like, is this a split model? That is, are faculty just mentors at senior levels, or are faculty sort of involved ongoing in the advising process, or is it all through the center?
I'm going to show you a slide, and then we'll talk about that. You know, it depends on the person. Wouldn't you agree? Some people really like to make connections. Okay, but our faculty. And they just, again, if you have one department that says, oh, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to embrace this well, they kind of shame the others and everybody says, oh, we're doing it anyway, we're just not telling you. Well, reports help, okay? And so the site faculty came up with this document. And I think we also include that in the jump drive also, and it was brilliant.
Cathy, you got stuff everywhere.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm unorganized.
Sure, you got it all up.
This is a tool, and we gave you this, that the site faculty developed for their students, and we shared it across the board because they gave us permission to. And what's interesting, faculty were doing it anyway. They were just resisting administration telling them what to do. I understand that. I've raised kids. Okay? And most of them were doing it at the junior level. But every now and then you get this student that comes to you as a freshman, you know, you've had them, that you know is sharp as a tack. And so you'll begin to feed into them a little different than everyone else. But this is designed for all of the juniors. And Gerry, are we seeing faculty not participate now?
Right. We had one school who refused to do it, and that was really the School of Business. They said they were not going to do it. But then after they realized that other faculty were doing it with their students, they chimed in and they've got into it. So now we have everybody on campus using the junior checklist. Because that, once we did the advising survey, and there was the one thing that came out of there, students said that they liked advising, but what they were not getting to see, they were not having any contact with faculty other than just in the classroom. And that was the part that was missing for them. So then we figured out that faculty need to go into that mentoring piece, and they need to know who their mentor is, and they need to work with faculty at some level. So this is what we created with the junior checklist, so that they can actually see. Now, they don't go to the faculty for advising, and if they do, then the faculty member would normally contact an advisor to say, you know, I have this student, blase, blase. But as far as the mentoring piece, that's what I talked about, where they want to talk about grad school, where they want to talk about, are you on target to graduate? You know, what are you doing? Are you looking for an internship? Those are the kind of things that the faculty prefer to talk to the student about. And this is what the faculty came up with. I mean, we had a sheet, and they told us our sheet was too cumbersome. They were not going to do it. It said they were not going to do it. But one of the other faculty members came up, another faculty member came up with that one, and it worked for them. And we said, okay, if it works for you, if that's what you want to use, all we're interested in doing is getting the student in the door to see the faculty member, to have some type of contact and some engagement with the faculty member. And it has worked. And then the faculty member sends this back to the advisor. They say that the student has been there, and then they ship this back to the advisor, so the advisor can see if the student's on target, if they're not on target, if they agree, if the student has some issues or concerns, then the faculty member just puts it in. I mean, it takes them, you know, maybe a couple of minutes, and if it says no concerns, they'll send that in, and then they'll send that back to us.
So how are these administered? I guess, like,
A variety of ways. The site faculty did it within the classroom, okay? Some faculty business, they did it when the students came
Appointments.
to their office for questions.
Performance.
And most of them did it within the classroom though, because you have them.
Yeah.
So you just identify your juniors.
Yes.
In your class.
We sent a list. We sent a list out. We ran a program, and we sent every dean and chair of every school a list of all their students and their particular majors, so they wouldn't have that to complain about. We said these are the list of students that you need to worry about, the junior checklist. So we ran a program. We had them a list of all their juniors, and we had it listed specifically by their academic plan.
And see, I think people were concerned about, well, that's going to be a lot of students. But once we ran the report and they saw that it was a really doable number, they said,
They were
wow, we can do
okay,
this.
yeah.
I mean, because people are always thinking hundreds. How am I going to see hundreds? Well, come on. On our campus, it could be 30, depending on the major. Okay? I mean, just depending on major.
Nursing was the most, I guess nursing was probably the most cumbersome one, but then they decided to do it in their classrooms. They decided to break it by, small numbers and do it in a couple of their classrooms. So once they got that over, then they decided that's the way they were going to do it. So it worked for them. They were just going to use part of their class to do that, one of their classes to do it.
What if you have a student that is in 3 junior classes and had already done it in one class? Did they have to do it in 2?
No, it's specific, it's major specific.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because we have the same class, we have different classes at junior level offered in the spring semester. So if they did it at say the 2 o'clock class, which.
No, then they would have to do, yeah.
Okay.
You only need to do it, they don't have to do it
And
once.
some faculty would do something as simple as shoot us an email and say, oh, Cathy, I just met with so-and-so student. And these are things we talked about. And then what an advisor would do would then copy that, post that into the advising contact. Because we put everything in advising contact. Yes.
Can that questionnaire be used as an assessment tool for the whole advising program?
It can be, I mean, if there's
You
something.
compile the data and accumulate it to get some statistics out of it?
We could, we haven't done that, but we probably could if we wanted to, but we haven't done that for the advisor.
I guess that's one question I have is, you've done this since 2009. How do you assess 2 things? One, what the students think of it, of the advisement.
We did a survey in 2010.
Okay. Do you have statistics?
We surveyed 720 students.
Okay.
We got 720 students because what we did, we knew that we had to get a representation of freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So I went to the Dean's Council and I said, look, we need to do a survey on academic advising. We've changed it. We've changed advising on our campus. We don't know whether it's working. We don't know whether it's not working. We don't know what students think about it. So we had every freshman learning community to agree to give the survey in their class, and they did. We identified all the capstone classes because by this time, students were registering, were seniors. We could get some seniors. And then we picked out some seniors, and the deans actually picked out sophomore and junior classes that they were administering, and they told students they've taken it once, they don't take it again. And doing that, we had, I think it was 758 students. I didn't bring those results, but we had those, and we had our person that does our statistical analysis to look at that. We had 93% of our students, I think, were satisfied with academic advising. They liked the program. That's where the whole thing came about, that they were not seeing the faculty members, that they liked the process, they liked the advising, but they were not having any contact with the faculty member. And this is why we did the junior checklist. So what we did was we took all that data, we looked at it, and we saw where the weaknesses were, and we came up with programs and plans to try to improve what the students stated. We even had one at center where the students said it was not very welcoming. When they walked in there, it was not very welcoming. They couldn't do, and it was huge. So we knew that there was a problem there. So we went over, the chancellor and I went over, we looked at that center, talked to all the people there, and we completely revamped that center. We're talking about taking out the reception area. We looked at this, the reception area was this high. The students had to walk around the reception area and the workroom to get to the advisors. So we completely revamped that center, completely revamped it. We talked to the people in there. We said, hey, students are saying it's not in here? Are we speaking to people? Are we greeting people with a smile? What are we doing in this center? And then we put up suggestion boxes in all the centers as a result of that. And as a result of that, because when students leave, they have just like a little short survey. Were your needs met today? Why did you come to the center? Were your needs met today? Were you greeted in a welcoming way? Because those were the things that came out. And students dropped those surveys in that box. And it's a complete turnaround. I mean, so we really do listen to what the students say. So we made some changes.
The other side of that coin is, do you have an assessment tool for meeting the needs of the various majors programs, the degree programs that have the advisement, they're satisfied with it?
Do we have one specific?
Is the chemistry department satisfied with how advisement is? Is the biology, the math?
We have not surveyed the faculty, but we meet with the deans, we meet with the extended count, we meet with the deans every month, we meet with the extended deans council, which includes all the chairs, and we talk about advising. We tell them if there's anything.
No, but we can do that.
We don't do it. We don't have a. We don't have a written assessment, but
Yeah, what else so that you could send them? That's
yeah,
what she's asking.
we have not done that piece. But you know, word of mouth by talking to them, and I can tell you, like you could. I mean, we tell them if you're having any concerns with advice, and sometimes there are some concerns. Sometimes there are issues, and we address those issues. A dean sent me an email, I think maybe 6 months ago, that said that he thought one of the advisors were overstepping their bounds and doing some different types of things within their academic program. I mean, so that was an alert to me. So we had a discussion, and you know, so with the dean and that advisor, we had a discussion, and hopefully we resolve those problems. So we really try to keep an open door. So if there are issues, I tell them up front. I tell the deans and chairs. I meet with the deans and chairs. I go to I'm a member of the Dean's Council. I'm a member of the Extended Dean's Council, and so is Cathy. And we have open discussions about that. The Dean's Council meets every other week. We have a close relationship, and there's nothing for me to walk to a dean's office and say, hey, look, you know, if there's a problem, let me know. It's nothing for Cathy to walk to a dean's office or whatever. We keep that open relationship.
I had a dean in my office last night.
Yeah.
4:30 because of an issue. And he sent, I'll never forget, he sent this email 30 days ago because he sent both Gerry and I. And it was the dean of the Ward School of Arts and Sciences. And he said, Cathy, this is awkward. I don't know how to really tell you this, but don't be offended. And he said, but when you were in my office, in my suite, you would go down to the lounge and have lunch with faculty every day, and we got to know you personally. He says, now that you're displaced from me, my new faculty, they don't know you, and they don't know other academic advisors. How can we solve this? And he said, what I'm going to do on my side of the house, I'm going to invite advisors to come to more department meetings and chair meetings and those sort of things. What would you like to do on your side of the house? And we took it to the advisors at one of our advisors meetings, and we played around with the notion. And we're going to do some things. You know, we're going to have some coffee at certain times. We may have some lunches at certain times where we invite particular departments up. Because you're right, if you don't have that personal relationship, then you don't know that you can really trust me. And if you don't know what I'm doing, then you don't think, well, what, those advisors making mistakes, they don't know Jack Diddley. Okay? And so we're working on that because that dean realized what he was missing when the advisors weren't in his center. And he realized his new faculty he was bringing in would not know me at all and all my advisors.
And one of the things we've expressed to the advisors, on our expectations, if you make a mistake, own it and claim it, and let's do something about it. I mean, so I said, don't try to sweep it under the rug. Own it, claim it. I mean, be direct. If you've misadvised a student, if you've done something wrong, let's just see how we can fix it. But just let me know. Let me know so we can hit it head on, go to say, hey, I made a mistake with this person. I mean, we've made some of those. I mean, we're not perfect. We have made some of those. But we own it, we claim it, we fix it. And hey, I stand by them. You know, when they make a mistake, I'll tell the dean, yeah, we made a mistake. How can we fix this? This is a student. The student's not going to graduate minus 3 hours. I need to know what we can do to fix it.
And they help us.
Yeah,
It's
and
amazing.
so we come up with creative ways. I mean, so we do that. We really do have a good relationship. We can really say with our deans and our chairs on our campus, we really
We spend a
do.
lot of time in professional development for our advisors. And, you know, at first we got a lot of pushback from the advisors because we're taking up 3 hours of their day. But when you hire a new advisor, they appreciate it. Old advisors, it's like your kids. I know everything, okay? But no, we don't, okay? And so we have a monthly professional advisor meeting that Gerry talked about. We have a monthly academic advisors where we invite like the admissions office, career services office, financial aid office, and to come and share with us what's going on. Advisors, as Gerry said, they
Just
meet
advisors
together.
meeting.
It's just the advisors meeting. I've stopped going to those meetings so they can talk freely. And then we also send advisors to the Nakata Regional, National, the Institute. We're all members of IUN, and we also participate in IU Regional. Here, will you hit the next slide? I think the next slide is important because you have to manage advisors. And when thank you, Lord, when I was elevated to coordinator advisor and I supervisor advisor, I advise with these people. So, you know, one of the first things Gerry told me is that I have to separate myself from them in a certain way so I can advise them, because the person I used to co-advise with, we were close, and I didn't want any other advisor thinking that I was giving her preference or treatment, so I received that. But I manage advisors' performance in a lot of different ways because you have to manage that, and they expect that too, by the way. I expected it. I wanted to hear from Gerry what I was doing well and what I was doing wrong, and I also wanted to give her some goals I wanted to achieve the next year. And so every advisor has come up with at least one personal goal that they want to work on. And I meet with that advisor once a month to find out how they're doing and meeting their goal and what can I do to help them. Just like a dean would, right? And in November, we will give them their personal performance form to start working on, and I'll work with them so that we'll have all our evaluations completed before I leave December 25th, and that'll be help Gerry. But I do some other things, okay? And when you manage people, you got to use the data out there. So you know you can run an advising. If all advisors are to be using advising contact notes, if the student called you, if the student sent you an email, if the student was a walk-in, if the student had an advising appointment, if they met them at the advising table, there ought to be an advising contact note. And so we can run a report every day to see how many advising contact notes you've entered. And we had, the last meeting we had some issues to deal with. It wasn't about any current advisors, it was about advisors who left us because he got a better job. And there was some rumbling in there that we were working people too hard. And so I ran a report of all the advising contacts for a certain period. And below that report, all the number of appointments and walk-ins that were installed in that same period. And I just put it up on the board, and I sent everybody their own individually. I sent them their own individually, and I told them what the average was. And of course, people started sending me emails, how to do, you know, and that allowed me to have a conversation with them, which is important. But in order to address one of the issues that we had, I put everyone's up on the board when all the advisors were there. And it just got real quiet. So they can see what each other was doing. It was really quite it told a wonderful story. I love nursing. It's the second largest school on campus this year, but last year they were the first largest school. And this was from a period from June 21st to October 1st. Second biggest school, one of the advisors saw 109 students and put 109 contacts on the board. 109 contacts, and her name was on there. Her colleague, who was out with a broken ankle for, 6 weeks?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Her advising contacts were over 300. Now, I really don't have to say anything at this point, because if you're a team, you need to be, you guys need to be working this out. Our newest advisor that wasn't 2 months old had 444 contacts. Now, I really don't have to say anything, do I? okay? And so I run a lot of reports. You know, I run if they have the number of students that actually have classes in their AAR, because you have to use the data to let people know if they're on track or not. And I like that personally, because I don't mind you saying you're working me too hard, but if the evidence says I'm not, then we need to have a conversation. What can I do to help you here? Okay? So that's what you can do when you have centralized advising. Gerry couldn't have done that if I was reporting to the dean. And the dean wouldn't be thinking that would be necessary because the dean doesn't know about these tools. They may have heard it, but they don't really know the benefit of an advising contact. Because one of the things that Gerry allowed me to do when I became the coordinator, I thought it was important that we have a lead advisor for nursing, but I better know, every other advisor better know how to advise a nursing student. Because God forbid, and it happened, if 2 people are out for too long, students complain. And it goes right to the chancellor. So instead of telling the student, oh no, you can't be seen this week or next week, you just call over to another center, see if there's an open spot, and send that student to that advisor. Now we do due diligence. You look at the advising contact record. That's the beauty of the advising contact record, right? That tells you everything. You look at the academic planner. That gives you something else. You look at the transcript. In a minute, we'll be able to look at EAB data. And you'll be able to step in and advise that student at that period. And then shoot your colleague an email and say, hey, I just saw your student. Would you review my work? And I just did this yesterday with an education major, a secondary ed. And so I know it works. But you have to do something to manage advisors. And it's not all punitive. I think it just helps in the retention of your students. Is it break time? Probably.
Well, it's 11:50, so we're actually just about done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Maybe we can just, if anybody has any.
You have questions or something we didn't cover? I mean, it's a lot to cover, yes. Yes.
What percentage of your students are part-time? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know right off the top of my head.
I can find that. I can go online.
But the majority of our students are full-time. I mean, we have really changed the dynamics of our campus. The majority of our students are full-time. The incoming students that are coming in, the average age is 19. The average age of all of our students is about 23.3 for if you put all the students with the graduate and undergraduate. Like I know this last year we had more international students than we have anything. Our MBA program has really grown. So we have that. We have more females than we have males on campus at this point. We don't have any dorms, but there is a private entrepreneur that are building apartments across the street for our students, and they're going to be open this fall. So students are really excited about that. So we really think that's going to really be another boost for us for enrollment purposes again. But I mean, if you think about all that, when I came to IU Kokomo in 1981, the majority of our students were returning adult students. I think when I came, we were not really a campus of choice. I think in the last 5 years, we have really moved to a campus of choice. We're seeing more students that tell us they're coming here because they want to come here, not because their parents have made them come, or just if you talk about with advisors talking to the students, because a lot of times the students say, well, I'm only going to be here for a year. I'm only going to be here for a semester. Then I'm transferring to Bloomington, or I'm transferring to somewhere else. You look a year later, 2 years later, students are still there. I mean, and some of them say, well, I didn't think I'd like it as well as I like it. I really like it here. I like the small class size. They made some friends. We have increased, this year the chancellor made we had a diversity coordinator. It was a part-time position. We boosted that to a full-time position. I mean, so we've done some things on our campus to try to make it just more campus-like. I mean, without the dorms, without being a residential campus. I think the athletics has really helped boost us as well. and we've had that in the last couple of years. So, and you know, and part of being on the chancellor's cabinet, I can tell you the first thing on the agenda when we have cabinet meetings is enrollment and retention. Those are the first two things we talk about. We don't even start a cabinet meeting unless we're talking about, tell me how enrollments are doing. What are we doing about enrollments? What are the numbers? What does retention look like? Are our continuing students coming back? What are we doing to get students back? What kind of campaign? What kind of marketing are we doing? What kind of brochures? What do we have out there to let students know that it's time to register, it's time to do this, it's time to do that? I mean, so in the Dean's Council and those meetings, that's what we talk about. We take 5-10 minutes or whatever it is, we talk about enrollment, we talk about retention. I mean, you have to. We talk and advising. If there's advising issues, if there are concerns, I mean, you know, even with Cathy leaving and we had another young man to leave that was halftime. I mean, to have that resource, right? You know, my thing, our chancellor said, you know, in order for us to keep advising as it is, in order for us to maintain the programs and the things that we have now, in order for us, I need another position. Bam. My chancellor approved it. I just made an offer to a young lady last night. She's coming in. You know, my thing is I've got to get somebody in there. I've got to get them trained before Cathy leaves. I told Cathy, you got to train this young lady before you leave, so I can do it. So I mean, so I've got to get her in there. I've got to get some training done. But that's with having the commitment, and I cannot express that so much. Is that the commitment has to be at the top. President McRobbie has made advising and career services two of his top things, and we've heard that. We've received that on our campus. I mean, not that we didn't have it before that, but we know now that that is a top initiative. EAB is all about advising. They're not investing, IU is not investing about EAB just to be invested in EAB. I mean, they're using it as a advising tool. You have a vice president who is, you know, who's responsible for advising for the regional campuses. Becky Torstrick, I mean, so she's working with everybody trying to get the advising. I mean, so you know, you really know that advising has stepped up its game. I think everybody understands that advising is important. It's important to retention and it's important to enrollment. I mean, once admissions admit those students, it's our responsibility to get those students and turn those to matrics. And we know that. So we work very closely with admissions, and we have students call, we call. If students haven't, you know, our goal is, okay, if we don't have 75% of these students matric by a certain date, I mean, we're on another campaign. We're looking at something different. We got to do something different. I said, whatever we're doing, it's not working this time. We got to change it. Cathy can tell you, we have a competing against the advising centers. They compete. I mean, so they said, okay, this week we have got to enroll 40 new students or 30 new students. So advisors send oh, I just enrolled a new student. Bam, I just enrolled a new student. You know, we're going to make our goal. We're going to get 30 students. So we know, based on last year, what our enrollment, if we want a top enrollment for this last fall, and we do intend that top enrollment for last fall. I mean, we're already working on it. We already got a plan in place. We do intend top enrollment for spring and for summer. I mean, we're going to get there. So we already are starting now planning. How are we going to do that? What are we going to do? And if the numbers aren't there, we said, hey, we need this more. I mean, and we have our institutional research person, our number person. She says, okay, Gerry, you need to enroll this many more students by this date, or you need to have this more students enroll if you want to meet or beat your numbers by this date. And that's what we really go by that. We really look at that.
And there is a climate in OSSA with the advisors. It's that we want to beat last year. And that was stimulated when we gave everyone a goal each week. And everyone, because they would send the email not just to me, but to each other. And nursing was just really, you know, nursing would come back. I personally registered 8 new students today. And so now it is a part of the culture or the climate of advisors that, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat it. And we've gotten to the place where everyone is precious to us. And so if a student comes in, regardless of how the student comes in, whatever their story is, we know they're gonna have stories, our job is to listen, find out what's really going on, and then what services and resources can we provide them so they can continue. Sometimes we know we have to let them go, okay? But oftentimes it's just something that we can help them with. And you know, we're busy, but the reason why we're effective is because we have peer advisors. And this is how the advisors describe themselves. Peer advisors have described themselves. They did a presentation at the IUPUI Mentoring Symposium, and they have presented at the Mentoring Symposium for the last 3 years. And they are critical. You know, after an advisee spends time with me or another academic advisor, then we send them out to the open area where they're working with a peer advisor who actually helps them put courses in their academic planning. And then, you know, then they talk student to student. And, you know, and they, you know, it's been a while since I've taken a course, and they can talk about the classes that they took and what they learned. And it's really, I think it's really magical when you see a student working with a student. And one of the things I've learned about our peer advisors, they become outstanding students, and then they get a clear focus on what they want to do when they leave this institution. We help them because we send them to professional development also. But we can't do this by ourselves, so we have about 9, 11 peer advisors, and we pay them by the hour. We train them.
And we celebrate enrollment on our campus. When we make record enrollments, the chancellor got these large cakes from J. Everybody loves J. Edwards in our town. So she got these large cakes. And we had certificates made for everybody on campus. We had certificates made. And we actually went around, Chancellor and I went around, and we congratulated and we thanked everyone for helping us and for all their hard work that they had done to get the students enrolled and to helping the students to be successful, even with our graduation rates and with our enrollment. I mean, because it was a challenge. I mean, some advisors work 9, 10, 12 hours for like weeks. Some of them worked on Saturdays. They came in on Saturdays other than orientation days. I mean, it's not anything that you can take lightly. I mean, but they did some hard work in order to get there. And we wanted to make sure that they understood that we really appreciate all that they had done. Because sometimes students, you know, with students with prom, you have students going different things with new students. They have games, they have family vacations, they have different things, and sometimes they can't get there during the normal day. And so we try to make arrangements for that. Now those are not a lot of them, but they do make those kinds, so we try to make those kind of accommodations for the students when they need to come in during that time. So, but there's a lot of different types of things that we put into place. I know Cathy gave you're Cathy, yeah, we gave that. And anything that you want to see that we have here electronically, we can send it to you electronically, and you're welcome to change it. I also bought, we did an assessment plan where, and I really kind of used a format, the template that IUPUI had used, because Cathy Bryaski and I worked really closely, but their campus had just done an assessment plan, and we did one, because I mean, it's really a kind of complicated, tedious thing. So we did that. So if anybody, if you've done an ACADA and they say that you need to do an assessment plan, then I do have this one that you're welcome to use. It's electronic. It's 17 pages, but it's electronic. I mean, because you have to put your mission, your vision, what your objectives, what your goals, and all that stuff on there. So we've done one for our campus. Then after a while, once we got into the tune of it, then we kind of, you know, so we really know, but you have to do it on advising, orientation. Every little thing you do, you have to do that assessment plan on it and what your expectations are. So we've done that as well.
You know how you guys were promoting the Complete in 4? Well, we worked with our media and marketing, and they created a 2-minute video with our campus on how to complete.
Thank you guys for coming.
You guys can see that at your I'm not going to show it to you, but we did do it. And the other thing we gave you is this.
The QR codes.
The QR code, and that's again. It's huge. It ties in well with what. Where is that young lady? You? Yeah. It ties in well with what you're doing. So again, these are the things that advisors did in order to help the campus graduate more students on time. So thank you guys. I'm done.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming and listening. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.